Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. Welcome back.
It's good to see you.
Oh, no, wait, that's me.
That's right.
Right. Wow. Hi. One of us is back.
The NAMM Show. You were at the NAMM Show.
I was.
But before we start talking about that,
okay,
because now that we're in our presence together again and not through some crazy wire where we're 700 miles away, we want to thank the fans.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you.
I had the pleasure, and I was telling you, to talk to Mr. Lance Lopez.
Yes.
And the fans
which I missed.
The fans responded great. What a career that guy's had, and what just an amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
He started like when he was 8 years old. His dad knew Elvis personally. They were friends. And
we'll talk about a little bit different aspect of Elvis in a moment. But,
yes, and but just a great player and a great guy. And said he was, he could have went one of two ways. He could have went that heavy metal way, or he go with that blues way, and he stuck with the blues way. And I said, you're probably better off.
Yeah.
I said, imagine what that career would have looked like if you would have went with the metal thing. And he goes, yeah, I don't know.
I think blues has a slightly larger audience. Metal is, it's got a very large audience, but I think blues appeals to a slightly wider range of people.
Your niche audience, when it comes to metal, you do have adolescents that are 50 years old that like metal. But the majority of it is it's all the testosterone driven male, young, 13 to I think mid-20s.
I think if there is a song playing in the background, you have a better chance of more people wanting to listen to it if it's a blues song than if it's a really hardcore metal or thrash or something. So
to be honest, it's safe. For the most part. It's not. Some of the metal stuff is not safe, just like if you were listening to rap. Right, there's certain genres of music that have it's a very niche audience. It may be very widespread because it's younger, but it's not safe in certain situations. And I hear
tell a good percentage of females enjoy the blues.
There you go.
So
there you go. You can't go wrong with that.
Right. Oh, and back to listeners for a second.
Yes.
A lot of love at NAMM. For the podcast.
I heard.
Yeah, man. There are people coming up to me all the time.
And I wish I was there because
Mick here? Is Mick here? I went, no, Mick's not at this one, unfortunately.
See, that scares me a little bit because it's like, is Mick here? No. Well, then I'll just put the gun back in the holster.
Stop it. A lot of love out there. So thank you, listeners. And if I met you at the NAMM Show, thanks for coming up and saying, hey.
Yeah, man.
For sure. We
that's
really do appreciate
cool.
it.
You were
spread the word.
Petra was sending me texts. Mrs. Bober.
Yes.
She was sending me texts saying, hey, there was a couple people asking for you. And I was like, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that was very cool because that tells us we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that, before we get into all the information there, one of the things that you were telling me is that, and I'll just keep going down this road because, I've been trying to find guys, that's what I do.
Right.
I find the guys.
We both
you get guys, and I get guys, and
sometimes girls.
Yeah, and with your business, it's a little bit harder for you to constantly look. So, but the one thing that you told me is that they don't really hear from the guys that have been the name out there for 20 years because we all kind of know their story.
I heard more than once. It's like, I really appreciate the guests that you guys have on because, it'd be great to have like the biggest of the big, but they've done 150 interviews.
There's no guesswork.
There's no guesswork.
Yeah.
You know, you bring us people that we don't know and are interesting, and we get to hear their story or different aspect of things, like, you know, from the tech end or the manufacturer end or the engineer producer end. So, you know, people are appreciating the type of show that we give to them, and we really appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, because there's a ton of those guys that you may not know, and this kind of gives them a little bit of accolades that they,
absolutely,
and
they deserve it.
Yeah, and they get to talk about their career, which probably doesn't happen as much. You know, if you're playing for Johnny Winter,
right,
like Mr. Paul Nelson, you just don't get that time a lot of time. You know,
right,
and we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I kind of like those underdog guys a little bit.
For sure.
You know.
For sure.
And one of the guys that we've talked to and then decided to give us something is our buddy from up north.
Mr. Jason Zaditas.
That's right. And he gives us...
Quick Lick.
And guess what he did?
I saw what he did. I didn't have time to respond, but
sold his house.
Oh, that too. I didn't see that.
So congratulations.
Good. Congratulations,
Jason.
buddy.
He sold his house. He's all moved in, and he's a monster.
Yeah.
Because he's giving us videos. And I'm like, you can unpack.
You know what? I think he unpacked the audio and video stuff first.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I'm just going to go record some stuff.
His wife's like, we have no forks in the cabinets. Do you want to just...
Right.
He's like, I got to do video.
I can't find the plates. So,
but his new CD, right?
I believe it's just out or on its way or just came out, is going to come out any day now, something.
So check our website, because I've got to go through the emails, and I apologize to Jason because I've been busy too. But any information that happens, it'll be on the website right below the episode, along with his Quick Lick video.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So congratulations, buddy.
Yes. Now, there's a little website update.
Okay.
Got a couple emails, and people were saying, hey, man, I can't find your banner for Amazon. And I went, look, it's this little tiny thing. So what I did was...
Maybe they tried on the phone, and it's probably minute.
Yeah, so what I did was I went back out, and I made it bigger. I got one of the big ones. So when you go to the website now, you're going to see the Amazon banner. Awesome. If you click through that banner, you don't pay any extra for your product. They kick a little bit over to us. It keeps the lights on here, keeps these hard drives spinning.
That's right.
And to the right of that is all the social media stuff. So go out there, subscribe to our YouTube channel and, Instagram and the Facebook and all that stuff. And all that just perpetuates us down the road. And, of course, the big thing is the 5 stars on iTunes.
iTunes, yes, please. If you're going to go to iTunes, if you have an extra minute,
and they have been listening. We've been getting reviews, and it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So, and
keep doing that.
Yeah, man.
We really do appreciate it. It helps us rise to the top.
Yeah, and we don't want to. We've had many a discussion, and we want to get advertising, and we do have a guy that sent us a product, and we may, we're going to test it out, and we haven't done it yet. When we do, we'll let you know.
Received it, so.
But if you have anything, if you're a manufacturer or anybody out there that wants to do advertising with us, contact us through the website.
Sure.
ampsandaccesscast.com. And there's a contact page. Put it on there. We'll talk to you, because we don't want to be one of these podcasts that's going through like the Westwood One thing where they're talking about Dollar Shave Club and our alarm systems. And we're a music podcast, and we want to try to keep it that way.
Yeah, as much as possible, as long as possible.
Exactly.
And sometimes baby needs a new pair of shoes.
Yeah. So if you guys, if you're smaller, larger, it doesn't matter. If you got products and you want us to talk about it, and you want to talk, hey, look, we would love to.
Sure.
Because half of this crap we use.
For sure. For sure.
And a bunch of our listeners use it, or they may not and may want to know about it. And we'll do our thing, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Love to do it.
Absolutely.
Hey, speaking of product, I know we don't want to run too long, but
no, we're fine.
I thought this was really cool because, we, in plenty of podcasts that we've done, we've discussed how way back in the day, when you're starting to play guitar, in the early days, when you could only afford an inexpensive guitar, it was something that was very difficult to play, and the strings were, a half an inch off the fretboard, and
you could do open chords, and that was it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't stay in tune, and the neck is warped, and how things have gotten so much better to the point where you can go get an inexpensive guitar and really have no problem playing it, and easier for people to stick with it and for more people to continue to learn and to play music, which we all know is an absolutely wonderful thing. You know?
Yeah.
I just saw a new ad, or the first time I'd seen the ad, for Epiphone, and they have this new Pro 1 line of acoustic guitars.
Really?
Yeah, and they're made so that they're easy to play for beginners. They have, let me see, where is it? They have what they call an easy profile neck, Pro E string lubricants, pinless string through, ultralight strings, shorter scale, the whole thinner body. You know, the whole thing is set up to make it easy for you to play, so you want to continue to learn to play. So, you know, hey, man, kudos to Epiphones for, you know, making something where it's easy for a beginner to not want to quit because it's too difficult.
On an acoustic guitar. So that way you don't have to go buy an amplifier. You know, you can kind of get your beak wet, you know, test it out. It's like putting a big toe in the water on something that's actually playable.
You know, a lot of us that attempted to learn when we were kids, you know, we persevere. We're obviously people that persevere because, you know,
it was brutal.
Yeah, if you didn't say, you know what, I'm going to play this no matter what. You know, it was just as easy to say, you know, throw this thing under the bed. I'm going to go maybe grab a football next, you know? So, you know, so I'm glad that things have become easier, but now they're actually focusing on making something that's easy for beginners to play. So, you know, kudos to you, Epiphone.
Yeah, very nice.
I like that.
And congratulations to you, my friend.
I didn't invent that.
Well, you guys got the PG Editor's Choice, right? Is
is
that what you got at NAMM?
Yeah, the Editor's Pick. We didn't know until we pulled things up on the website Sunday morning, like after the show was down and loaded out and everything.
I'll put some YouTube videos up of what you guys got there at the show on the front page, and you guys can hear some incredible sounds coming out of those East amps.
There is PG actually did a whole, you know, because after they did their whole video segment in our booth, is when they went, wow, this is really good. And, you know, we woke up the next day to the awards. So,
wow.
We had no idea. And it was great.
So cool.
It was great. So, thank you, Premier Guitar.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, obviously, you know, it took the master to build that tone machine, or is, like you said, the 800-pound violin.
Right. It's really versatile, and a lot of people were digging it, man. There were a lot of people going, wow, that just sounds really good.
That's cool.
So, they haven't posted yet, and that's okay. You know, we'll wait another week or whatever it takes them to edit these things, because, I mean, they just go.
Yeah, they're throughout the whole play. I remember when they were at the.
I mean, we did ours when the show wasn't even open yet.
Yeah,
you know, so it was crazy, and we have to give a nod to Mr. Scotty Moore passed.
Yeah, man.
You know,
well,
Elvis's right hand man.
And
you know,
not to say, how do you justify death, right? I mean, how do you? Yeah, we have a picture right here.
I have an autographed picture right here.
Yeah, so you don't, you know, we all do it, right? And it is a mourning time. You know, when that happens. But he was, 84?
I don't remember. Yeah.
That's a life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's the guys that we've been this year, especially when it's like David Bowie just, you know, he had a bad bout of cancer, kept it quiet, and just died. Mm-hmm. And it was like, whoa. Right. And, you know, you're talking a guy that was in his 60s, right? Right. At that time. So those kind of would knock you off your socks, you know, because you're like, what, you know,
unexpected.
Now look, he's gone, and it's horrible. You know, it's a bad thing, not horrible, but it's
hugely
you know,
influential player. I mean,
to people that don't even know it.
Right.
You know,
I mean, you know, one of the early rockabilly players, on top of, you know, just a good rock player, you know. You know, it was hard to categorize back then, because they were just playing to what the song required, you know.
They were making new music.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. You know, and
they were making a genre of music that has now gone into what it's gone into.
Right.
But like, what, didn't even Chet Atkins like give accolades to him?
Oh, probably.
I mean, this guy's like, you know, he was writing the book.
He was writing the book,
yeah, the book that didn't exist.
And there's one other person that passed that probably nobody knows of, but I'm happy that I saw this come up. And he wrote, not a familiar name, but he wrote something that's very familiar. It's Sir Mac Rice was his name.
Okay.
Sir Mac Rice passed. I forgot who posted this. I had seen it on Facebook earlier today, but he was a songwriter. Wrote a couple of songs. Most famous being Mustang Sally.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
Yeah. So Sir Mac Rice passed as well. So
I
hope
think
you all got a hell of a band up there, man.
Yeah. We're 6 months in. We're getting ready to go into the 7th month. And the roster is getting heavy.
This year has been brutal.
Yeah, so let's knock it out.
All right,
or knock it off.
Knock it off.
Yeah,
knock it off.
Cut that shit out.
Well, and we have a guest today who's still with us, still alive and well, plugging away for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
You had a blues guy on last week.
Yeah.
And blues is so good, we're going to do it twice. We're going to do back-to-back blues guys.
Why not?
Why not? So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our blues man guest of the week, Mr. Joe Louis Walker.
Hey, this is Lance Lopez, and we want to ask y'all to keep on rocking the blues. You're listening to Amps and Axes.
All right, we are back, and as promised, we have our guest of the week, Mr. Joe Louis Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
I often say great blues players have 3 names.
Well, there you go. then Joe Louis Walker must be a great blues player.
There you go.
We got all 3 here, man. This is great. This is great. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Good. You know what? I've been reading some notes here and things like that, but I of course, everybody knows what I do by now. I, of course, am going to throw us into the Wayback Machine and have Mr. Joe Louis Walker take us back to where he was born and raised and how you got into music. What was the catalyst? So give us a little history, man.
Well, some people know. A lot of people from the Bay Area know, and people that have moved there eventually from all over the world knew. But you asked me about how did I get started in music, and basically, my mother and father encouraged me when I was young. My father playing records for me every day, and my mom playing her records, and older brothers and sisters playing theirs, and it just got into my blood, and they knew it, and they sort of nurtured it with me. And some of my cousins were musicians, and so we just all had a family band, me and my cousins, and that's what we dedicated ourselves to.
Wow, nice. So you mentioned your parents' records. So I was going to ask you if they were records that they also played because they were musicians, but I think you kind of answered that. They weren't.
No, my parents were not musicians.
Yeah.
They just played music. They grew up with the music was one of the few things that they had where they came from, where they could express themselves and not feel threatened, so to speak.
Nice. So you wound up with a family band in one form or another.
Yeah, we're cousins. My cousins all of them played music, and all of us lived in the projects, and we played our music, and we played for all kinds of sock hops, motorcycle clubs, played the Film Auditorium quite a bit before the hippies came. And I played after the hippies came, and I played when the hippies were there, Film Auditorium. So I just sort of gravitated towards music. I just loved music, any kind of music.
Now, were you always a guitarist? Was that your first and only instrument?
No. Violin was my first instrument, and accordion, and play a little keyboards and harmonica and bass guitar, stuff like that.
Wow,
that's a good range.
Yeah, absolutely. A well-varied instrumentalist. Was guitar your primary instrument in your band with your cousins, and who kind of played with it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember your first guitar? Like what your parents got for you, or what your first real guitar was? What was that like?
Well, yeah, my mom got me some funky little sort of Japanese, Chinese thing. They really didn't even have a name. It looked like a, just it's something that you just pick up and try to, make some noise on. And so, I was just happy to get it because we just didn't have the money to afford anything, very expensive.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And then I assume that you progressed on from there. I assume that you still don't play that guitar. So how did your gear progress over the years? Did you once you got into the band, did you get something new and different? And how?
Yeah. Well, as I got 14 years old, I had Stratocasters.
Oh wow!
Vox AC 130 because that was the amp that had reverb. A lot of amps didn't have reverb at the time, and I had just about every kind of freaking guitar I could get my hands on and I could afford. And, amplification, that's when 2 or 3 of us plugged in the same amp, and if you had another amp, you'd plug something else in there in the microphone, and that was the PA system. So, but, it was, was the fun we had was the main thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember those days because I had a 63 Vibrolux reverb.
Oh, okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, I had a Silverface.
Okay.
Vibrolux reverb, and it had the 4 inputs because it had 2 channels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was like a field day for the guys in my band. They were like, "Oh, we can plug 3 microphones and your guitar in this," and I'm going, "Do you know what that's going to sound like?" And boy, we found out quick. That did not matter. You just can't. It doesn't work very well.
If it was a silver, it was a 63. But you did what you could do with what you had. We all did it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Now, what year was this? Was this when you were doing this?
Oh, well, I don't know, 62, 63, 64.
Okay.
I was playing gigs when I was 12 years old in 1962, 63, playing a lot of gigs in 64, playing in nightclubs and stuff like that, and 65, doing a lot of nightclubs. 66, left home, and then I was just a full-time musician.
Wow, from 66 on.
So you've seen that culture change from its wow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, you came up through the ranks. You lived all the hard years.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of funny because I think then a lot of the musicians that lived in the area and they eventually came to California, and some became really well known, some didn't, but everybody knew each other. Nobody playing then, I think, really jumped into playing because they wanted to be a millionaire or be famous or be on American Idol or whatever. Everybody wanted to become a musician. Now people want to become a celebrity, I think, more than anything. Big difference.
Yeah, there is a big difference.
I think some of those shows, especially the American Idol thing, it's kind of like I want to bypass all of the work and go straight, literally like just none of the stuff in between. And I think that we get that when we get certain musicians.
I hear that from certain managers too that work with artists. It's like they just don't want to put in the work anymore. Well,
and truth be told, when you look at it, considering where we are now with technology and everything, and a young guy, he's looking and he's 14 years old, and he's saying, well, if I can sample some of Jimmy Page's guitar, if I can get a beatbox and sample some of James Brown's beats, if I can get a auto-tunes and I can sing a little bit like Al Green and then a little bit like Stevie Winwood, and if I get a little home studio, I can put that all together. I can get a hit record. Now it don't make no difference if I can't play it because I'll get guys who can play. They're a dime a dozen, and I got a career. All I got to do is get on American Idol or The Voice and get 180 million hits.
Jesus.
180 million hits. And any record company worth its salt can say, hey, you know what? We have something here that we can promote this, and he's got 100 million hits on YouTube, or she's got 100 million hits. You got 20 million Facebook fans, and so I call this a generation of Facebook musicians. It's like Facebook musicians and American Idol talent. Because when you really think about it, think about if Bob Dylan was on American Idol, or Jimi Hendrix was on The Voice, or the Beatles were on America's Got Talent. Well, first thing that they say to the Beatles, do you know another lyric outside of Yeah, Yeah, Yeah? They'd ask Jimi Hendrix, well, what is Excuse Me While I Catch the Sky? They'd ask Bob Dylan, well, what's this Once Upon a Time? It doesn't make any sense. So it sort of shows like that are sort of anti-artists, and to be quite honest, in a way, the gaming of being an artist, Facebook, YouTube, blah 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 blah, it really has the audience sort of dumbing down, and the history of musicians that have sort of bucked the trend and have made it in spite of the music industry, in spite of Rolling Stone magazine, to show that is really rare. When I was coming up, there was all kind of people bucking the trend. I mean, there was Zappa with the Mothers of Invention. There was all the English guys, all about the show and the jumping around and I mean, it was just you had something new all the time. Whereas now, I mean, I really could not tell you what the hell they call the stuff most of the time on the radio in any genre. None. I'm sorry. I wish I could.
Well, they've really homogenized.
That's exactly the word that I was going to use. It's everything that's out there is homogenized. It's safe. It's like it worked once. It's going to work another 12, 15, 20 times. And the originality rarely shows its head, and occasionally the music style will change, but then the same process repeats again. We'll do the same thing 10, 15, 20 times with 10 or 15, 20 artists because it worked the first time and we made money the first time. Nobody's taking the chance anymore. It
kind of goes on a lot of things these days. I mean, look at the cars that we drive. You go out in a parking lot and you're like, every car looks the same. It's like,
that's right. Don't lose your car.
No,
you better have you better have that damn alarm that blinks, let you know which one's yours.
That's right.
And I know that back in the day, man, cars were works of art.
Yeah, and everything. An album cover.
Yeah. Oh,
guitars, everything. But and you're right. It sort of permeates all the arts, especially because if you look at a movie now, and you look at a movie in the 60s, or you look at the title of a movie, the movies now, the titles are The Date, The Hangover, The Bird.
Yes.
And I guarantee you, if you see one of these movies, action movie, it's going to start off with a chase.
Yeah.
And with the star, and you know the end of the movie by the first 5 minutes, and there's a lot of music like that. You really know what's coming. You know the auto tunes parts. There's obligatory rap section, and there's no guitars in music hardly. And if it is, it's that's another thing. That's a different genre, and that's another argument for another day.
Yeah.
But But I think what it does is that it really hurts the audience, because when I was growing up, I could go see a show in San Francisco at the Fillmore with, say, the Grateful Dead, and Ornette Coleman, and the Howlin' Wolf on the same bill.
Mm-hmm. Good God!
Every weekend you would see shit like that.
Now that was the genius of Bill Graham. He did that purposely.
Well, it wasn't just Bill Graham. Chet Helms had the Family Dog, and there was the Carousel Ballroom, which was bought and became the Fillmore West, which is two different buildings. But there was a lot of stuff going on like that. It just wasn't Bill Graham, but Bill made it. He took that spirit of what we're doing in San Francisco, and he really he took it to New York, to the Fillmore East, and other things, and then. We had the first pop festival out there. We had Monterey. Monterey was before Woodstock.
Mm-hmm.
And all my friends who went to Monterey, every one of them that went came back, signed to Columbia Records. Every one of them. A lot of them wasn't even signed up.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, but you know, that's when the record companies would do something like that. That's when, you know, they would really try to nurture a young artist. You know, but it's a very strange thing with nowadays with technology and what it's done for and against the arts, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's who wants to spend 40 years being a musician when you can just, you know, plug into your computer and plug up give me a B.B. King guitar solo, give me a Stevie Ray Vaughan solo. It's in the computer, just play, you know. There it is.
Well, I think that it does reflect, though, like you can, you know, the real thing will always persevere because it's got that extra piece that even though they're using those things, and I do agree, you know, they've homogenized it so bad that it's that way, and they just put hooks in there to try to keep you interested every 7 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no emotional content.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
it.
That emotion, you can't kill it. Once you know, that real artist is going to come. It's got to. It's just the way it is.
Right.
It's just that what I feel, and I've heard a couple other people say this, the audiences are getting dumb. Oh, because they just absorb this, and I heard something the other day, and it was like something from Miami, and it was some beach party, and there was 2 guys up on this stage with laptops and God knows what, right?
Yeah.
And this 180 beat per minute
BPM,
thing. Yeah. I wanted to just never stop punching myself in the temple because it was just the most hard. And I'm watching. There's like 2,000 people enjoying this, and I'm going,
oh man, it's way more people than that. You go to Glastonbury or somewhere like that on when those DJs come in, they pay those DJs twice as much as they pay bands, and those DJs they'll command 140,000 people. It's crazy.
That's insanity.
You know?
I mean, it's like, what did you do with your brain? Did you check it at the door?
And you know, and I understand that you know, I've come to accept that is an art form too, but it's an art form. But it's not necessarily you're not necessarily making music. You're performing some sort of art.
Yeah.
In doing all this, your art is manipulation, whatever. But you're not making music. You know, you're certainly not making anything original from scratch.
Well, the good part is
that you shouldn't be paid like you're
yeah, exactly
10 people making original music.
It's not Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No, God, no.
But here's the good part: when the apocalypse hits, we guarantee those are the first people to go.
Yeah, but you know, not to put too negative a spin on it. It's just you know, it's just it's the sign of the times, and like you said, you know, I think people will go for true emotion, true music. The only thing is that, you know, a lot of the groups and acts that we may have grown up with, actors, groups, writers, you name it, they really did have a time to try to perfect their craft, and they were allowed the opportunities to have a mistake, you know, to not have a million-selling record every 2 times out, you know, to grow.
Sure. Yeah,
and that's the good thing about everybody that, you know, a lot of the generation, you know, is that you've seen everybody grow, and everybody was interested in growing. Everybody wanted to become better. I think, you know, it's sort of now a lot of people just want to be famous, and they want to be rich, and the internet and stuff like that, it promotes that, because, you know, it's like, you know, I mean, it's like you go on YouTube and you see, you know, this guy's he's got 1 million hits playing the piano. No, it's the guy with the camera. The cat was playing the piano, man. The cat got 1 million hits. The guy, you know, I mean, serious. You know, I mean, it's like, okay, I'm sure you look on the home page and you see musicians every day bringing up valid points, you know, and no matter how rich they are or how poor, it's the same mantra. You know, music now it's live music. It's really kind of a dying industry. you know, for more ways, and the record business. They've been dead for a long time, and nobody just told them.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
It's sad, and that is true, man. It's just
it's not the same business anymore. It's nowhere near the same business anymore.
That's why we're hoping through this technology, we're telling the younger cats that it's okay to play through a real amplifier, and it's okay to be in the room with another human that's playing through another amplifier and drums. And
right. It's the human interaction that makes it cool. And you know what? Sit in a garage and y'all make mistakes together. You know, grow, learn.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to take the time to do that, and that's what really. That's what has the legs, you know, when you grow and you learn as a musician and you interact and you find out what works and doesn't work and what you like and what you don't like, and exposed to things, or maybe just by happenstance come up with new things, and it's like, wow, this is really cool. It's so formulaic. There's, you know, nobody takes the time. The experimentation isn't there.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, like Joe Louis. I mean, this guy's had an entire career of, you know, playing with emotion because he's a blues player, you know, and that's the real deal.
And I got a question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Were you at Monterey when Hendrix played?
No, but I've seen the show after that when he came to the Bay Area. But, you know, I mean,
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's one of the many guys that were hanging around there. You know, I mean, he was ready. You know, he was ready, and God bless him, he's a sweet person, and you know, just you know, wish he could have lasted a little bit longer, and you know, a little bit more. He left. Put it like this: he went to England at the right time to get the hell out of the United States. He should have left England at the right time to get the hell out of there to come back home, and I think he tried to, but due to that beautiful thing called contractual obligations, they had him twisted more ways than one.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, but, you know, just to be at that time, you know, actually in that scene, that is something that, you know.
Absolutely.
No auto-tune then, baby.
No auto-tune.
That was a stretch shoved through many Marshalls.
Yeah.
And you know, he was experimenting with effects that were just coming out. Like Roger Mayer was, you know, doing stuff for him, and it's like, okay, can we do something that sounds like this? And Roger would find a way to do it, and then it's like normal people like you and I listen to it, and we have no idea what that is. It truly was like from another planet, you know. And it's like, wow, it was so innovative, you know. And he burned so bright and so fast, man. It's what a mind.
Yeah, but it had to be in that time. You know, he couldn't have been earlier. He tried earlier. Right. And you know what I'm saying? He couldn't have been earlier. He tried earlier, and he was sort of ostracized for it. And it couldn't have been later. It couldn't have been the 70s because it was something else. So it literally had to be that particular time. And if you notice that a lot of groundbreaking musicians at that particular time sort of flocked together, you know? I mean, I lived in Mill Valley, California, with a guitar player named Mike Bloomfield for a long time, and he was one of those guys. He was always searching. So when he left the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, he started the Electric Flag. But when he was in the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, the last record they made was called East West, where he was experimenting. Okay, now you know it's no mistake that Bloomfield started Electric Flag with Buddy Miles. And I know Buddy. I met Jimi Hendrix through Buddy. It's no mistake that Jimi Hendrix and Brian Jones got along together good, really good, because everybody knows how experimental Brian Jones was. It's no mistake that Paul McCartney literally forced Monterey Festival to put Jimi Hendrix on there because they're both. When McCartney saw him, they connected. So you know, it's no mistake. That whole, you know, it's a line that goes amongst. But in that generation, I think there was a lot of experimentation. I mean, if you just think of the bands that came out of there, I've seen someone ask, and I won't name him, one of the band leaders on TV about the 80s. They're showing his response about the 80s, and the band leader's talking about, he's on late night TV. I won't name him, nice young guy. and he's talking about how the 80s had this was so deep musically and so deep politically and so deep, and I just wanted to say, man, does this kid even know? Has the 80s produced anybody like the Beatles, like Jimi Hendrix, Aretha Franklin, the Yardbirds, Chicago, Sly and the Family Stone, and then just throw that out the door. Just go for acting. Jack Nicholson, Sidney Poitier, Paul. Okay, just throw that out the window. Go for books. J.D. Salinger. You can throw that out the window. Go for humanitarians. JFK, MLK, RFK. Go for the fucking moonshot. What are they teaching these guys in school? I mean,
it's like
I don't give a shit if you are the band leader for the Tonight Show. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the 80s.
It was pop in excess, you know, and there was really.
And a lot of electronic companies,
absolutely,
sticking that big toe in for the first time.
I can remember when the Simmons kit came out. It was that's the end of drummers, and synthesizers came out. That's the end of horns and orchestras and everything.
Drum machines.
God
almighty.
I do.
I remember hearing that shit and going, "What in the hell?"
You know, it's funny that someone that actually has risen to the position of band leader doesn't appear to have enough in the way of musical history to, in order to make that comment. It's like, dude, go back, 2 decades.
Yeah, just two.
Oh my, just two. Two. Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah, and it's right on the cusp with the beginning of the 70s. I mean,
Yeah.
So there was a lot, but I can understand that's sort of what we were talking about. A lot of people's points of reference are basically to themselves. It really isn't.
Yeah, you're right.
So but it's weird because I can appreciate guys before me like Django Reinhardt and T-Bone Walker and guys that Les Paul, guys that really invented something, that really did something and played and all that stuff. But it's hard for me to appreciate things now when everything is so prefabricated, so thought out, and so I got to get 60,000 likes. I got to get 60,000 likes. Hey, man, I guarantee you, 60,000 fucking people don't like you. They don't like you.
Oh my God! I can't wait.
Everybody's doing this, this circle jerk,
Totally.
And it really ain't reality. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's their reality, and it's like no. Their reality is outside the computer, man.
I can't wait to pull that clip and put it at the beginning of our show. That's going to be our new intro.
That's perfect.
60,000 fucking people don't like it.
It's ironic, because I'm fortunate. I'm a student of music, man. I'm a student of the game. And the only perk I really got out of this being, somewhat new unknown is that I got to play and meet and work with a lot of my heroes. And so I'm not one of those shrinking violets when I'm around somebody. When I was around somebody like Ike Turner or Keith Richards or somebody, I'm asking questions. You got to tell me how this shit works, man. 'Cause I want to be like you. But
that's awesome.
It's really that to me is the connection, to those guys, to Howlin' Wolf or B.B. King or being on the Elvis Costello's label in England and stuff, and just talking to them. It's fun. That to me is the real payoff. It ain't the money and it ain't anything else. It's being connected to the guys before me and the ladies before me, because man, they got all the information. I mean, if you open your ears and your mind, you just like, wow, that really happened. Yeah,
absolutely.
That happened.
And anytime I get anywhere near a situation like that, I just realize how fortunate I am to be able to be in that situation. My path has led me there, and I'm going to absorb every minute of it that I can. And I was going to get to the touring thing too. It's like, you had the band with the Cousins and everything, and you were playing, but let's get into like when you started touring, and are there any like big standouts of people that you've played with or toured with over the years?
Well, I mean, Jesus Christ, man, I've toured with so many people, and I mean, as far as being on the same bill with them, and some knowing some, all the Three Kings, B.B. Albert and Freddie, and and you know, I guess opening up for Muddy for a couple of weeks at a time, stuff like that. You know, like I said, being on Elvis and Jake Costello and Jake Revere's label, and Demon, being on a Demon label in the 80s was a nice experience. You know, and just being able to play with everybody from Herbie Hancock to the late Johnny Johnson to fucking Ronnie Wood to Joss Stone. I mean, for me just to be relevant during all those times is sort of what I feel like I set out to do. You know, and it was to be a part of the musical heritage, but just not blues. You know, I mean, you said a minute ago, you know, and I'm a blues guitar player. Well, I'm known for that, but I really started off playing gospel. So I've done a lot of gospel shows with a lot of acts I can mention you might not even know. But in a lot of shit, I played so many shows. I was in many groups that morphed into other groups. I was in the Oxford Circle, which out of the Oxford Circle, a rock group named Blue Cheer come. I played with a lot of different. Wow. So I wear a lot of hats, you know, because I'm a fan. You know, just to be quite honest, I'm a fan I'm a bigger fan of John Lennon as I am of Muddy Waters. Believe me, I'm not lying to you. You know, a lot of my producers, they are going to make a record, and I warm up. You know, I'm warming up, and I'm playing like most musicians play every song they know. And after I play like the 12th John Lennon song, they say, "Man, why don't you do a John Lennon album?" Because you know, it's just something that speaks to me. You know, I mean, just the way he goes about it is the way different than everybody else goes about it, and I like that. And not just for different sake, you know.
Mm-hmm. Man, no, I mean, different just to be different is not something that really has any longevity to it, you know. But you're right, he was different, and it was good, you know. It wasn't just different for the sake of different. It was talented, you know. It was different in a very talented way, and I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah, it's the King Lear thing with him, you know. I mean, as it is with a lot of great musicians, you know. You gain the world and you lose your soul, and then you gain your soul back and you say, "Fuck the world." And I'm pretty much that's the way I felt like John did, and I think it really, really served him well. You know, I just wish he'd have moved back to England for a while. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard too that, you know, like when the '80s were happening, you had all the hair band things, and I'm just taking it from the perspective of, you know, the rock and roll side, guitar based, right?
Well, that was a guitar based side of that music of the '80s.
Yeah, and then it like hit this thing where people were like, okay, and then the grunge thing came in. Mm-hmm. So we've now taken it to this next step where you don't know if there's a real guitar player on there or not, you know. And this could be anything. So I think, and I hope, because I see, like, you know, because I have kids, I see them kind of going back and discovering, you know, the Hendrixes and the Allman Brothers guys and, you know, real musicians, because I think just the human brain can't take this process thing 24/7. You know,
I think you're right. You know, that's the same thing I say, you know, is that the human brain, it just, you know, and certain frequencies and notes cancel each other out. And like you were talking about that, 98 beats per minute, boom, boom, boom. I mean, we hear it all the time. Somebody drives up and you, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. You know, you hear it in every, boom, boom, boom. And after a while, to me, it sounds like one of those movies where you see the ships going where they have the guys rowing below, boom, boom, row you dogs, row you dogs.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it becomes like
Viking movies.
It's almost like you're numb.
Right. Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, once you've heard 5 of them,
it's not
you
only
don't know
no
where
good.
it starts
It's not
and
only
ends.
no good, but I mean, you know, there are certain beats and certain types of music that actually are proven to make people aggressive. You know, and it's like, what the hell are you listening to that for? You know, there's so much good music out there that you can get into, and you know, like, it will lower your blood pressure, and you can enjoy it, and you know, there's emotion, and the other stuff, it's like there's angry emotion. That's all there is. I can't stand it.
I turn my son on because he listens to EDM, which I don't know why, but he does. Well, right?
It's a phase.
So I played September for him, from Earth, Wind, and Fire, right? And I said to him, I said, you will never hear a machine, and I can safely say never, you will never hear a machine have breath like those horns.
Mm-hmm.
And with a good stereo, you can hear those guys breathing through those horns. I mean, it's just there. It's the way they recorded it, right?
Yeah, and none of that stuff is time aligned.
Not at
to
all.
Where it's perfect.
No.
Every single beat is perfect.
And I said to him,
takes the soul out of it.
I said, listen to that. That is actually a human for each one of those.
Right.
There's no keyboard player recreating these horn sections. And he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that was a big room. That they put those guys
it's a big
in.
band in a big room.
Yeah.
And somebody said, go.
The sad thing is that, we have a whole generation of kids. I call them kids because I'm 66 years old. I mean, that have really never, you have never really been able to experience that. We're just talking to some friends and promoters. I was in South Carolina the weekend, and we were talking about festivals now. And festivals now, some festivals are so big that what they do is that they don't even tell the audience who the headliner is until the last minute. So when they're walking out of the door for the festival that they're at, and I won't name any, the big mega festivals.
Oh, yeah.
They will play some of the music, some tease music, and then they'll say, you can buy your tickets for next year's festival now. People are breaking their neck to buy tickets to music they've never heard, to bands they've never really seen. And so you have that sort of a really, when you're a real musician, you just, we're grateful people still come out, but, it's like, well, come out to what? Come out to, to what, really? And you see all these young people, we see them every day. I mean, if I had a dime for every time somebody came and says, Joe, I want you to meet this 14-year-old guitar player, hell, I'd be rich. And my stock answer is, well, okay, cool, love to meet him. I'd love to see him even more when he's 24 or 34, when he's been through a divorce and he's not staying with mom and dad and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then he's got some blues or some real angst to talk about, But it's so much prefab nowadays. It's really, it's good you turn your son on to some things like that, and that's how I got into music. But, when I was a kid, it was all real music. There was no, it was like I was playing acoustic guitar, with older guys, and it wasn't like, oh, well, he's a nice kid, and we're going to take some time with him. It's like, okay, kid, you got 1 or 2 times to play here, and then if you don't play this shit right, get your ass out of here. That's just the way it was, and I didn't take that personally. I think that's the way I had to learn. And that's the way they learned, and on and on and on and on. And then, in other words, you got what you had earned. You just didn't. When just because you was 14 or 16, that didn't mean that you got a pass. Oh my God! Look at that 16-year-old play all those David Gilmour and Eric Johnson licks. Well, you know what? Who cares if it isn't in the context of a song that makes sense,
right?
And a song that we can believe, honest music. All you're doing is you're parroting,
right? Or I was going to say, where's his own licks?
Yeah, exactly.
You can learn, you can absorb from all these other things, but eventually it has to morph into who you are.
Well, I guarantee you nowadays it's hard to find anybody original, because exactly because of so much YouTube, so much Vimeo, so much freaking we were talking internet stuff and how to play this guitar lick, how to play that.
Oh, yeah.
You can wear somebody else's shoes. That don't mean that you're gonna look like them when you put your shoes on.
Yep,
it's true. That's true.
And that's go to a past guest. I always say J.D. Simo, man.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is one of those guys that he's young, but he knows. And look, he just had some equipment stolen the other day.
He likes the old stuff, and he likes to play that way.
He doesn't even play guitars that are older or newer than 70.
Right. But Joe Louis, I want to go back for a second. And you mentioned something. You said that people are flocking to buy tickets to hear and see music that they don't even know, they never even saw before. Part of me maybe I'm playing devil's advocate here, but part of me thinks maybe that's a good thing if it's really music and if it's original, and they just know that this is a cool festival that has real music, not a bunch of DJs and EDMs. But if it's a cool festival that has really music and they have like breaking artists every year, maybe that's a cool thing. Maybe that shows a little bit of open-mindedness. I mean, what's your thought on that?
Yeah. Well, it would be a cool thing, but it's just the opposite. The festivals are promoting the festival, okay? And what they do is, after they get all the people to buy the tickets, they can put anybody they want on there. So you'll get Sony Records saying, okay, well, we'll give you Elvis Costello, but we want to put 3 of our other acts on there, and all 3 of them are shit. Well, what about the band that's been out there playing, self-finance their record, don't have a music lawyer, they're not the buzz in the latest magazine, they're not being interviewed, and in that band you got somebody that could really do something. Well, how does it work? I mean, is the festival promoting the festival, or is it promoting the music? And that's the thing. I think it's cool when it works together. Like I don't think Bill Graham, and I know him pretty good. I don't think Bill was so much out to promote him. He was out to turn people onto the music that they liked and to give them more of it.
Yeah.
I never seen Bill Graham promote the Film Auditorium. He didn't need to. I mean, the Film Auditorium was known for having a diverse acts, and San Francisco was known for being a diverse place. In fact, we invented FM radio in San Francisco. We invented it. Mm-hmm. But before that, you wouldn't hear a song no more than 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 3 minutes maximum. You'd be hearing the Monkees do Last Train to Clarkville all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we invented playing, Susie Q by Creedence Clearwater, who nobody knew who they was, for 14 minutes. Or we invented playing fucking Stairway to Heaven. We invented that shit. So of course I'm a little bit more open-minded like that, and it's hard for me, as an artist, to really see that sort of uniqueness, that sort of maverick thing you were talking about, that's played down. It really is. And when someone even comes up with a bit of originality, they always say, well, Amy Winehouse, she's channeling Billie Holiday. No disrespect to Amy Winehouse. She couldn't be Billie Holiday, but she could be Amy Winehouse, and she was working on that. I like that. Whereas a lot of people who are very, very, very famous are what I call stylists. They play this style, they play that style. Your Kurt Cobains are 1 in a million. Guys who do something totally different and are willing to take lumps for it. Can you imagine him doing Smells Like Teen Spirit on American Idol? I mean, they still be trying to figure out what the words mean. I don't even know what the fuck you mean, but I like it.
He wouldn't make it past the auditions.
Yeah. But it's real rock and roll.
Yeah, totally.
That's real rock and roll.
It's like they wouldn't know what to do. We can't sell this. We can't put this on TV. Nobody like that.
That was Simon Cowell. I mean, he owns a whole, that whole franchise. And his whole thing is, it's not are you good? It's are you sellable?
Yeah.
And that's all he cares about. And when you have guys like that running the show, then you're going to get.
What he does, he finds 3, 4, or 5 people that are really good, like that show up individually to do, the blind test and everything, and he puts them all together and makes a boy band or a girl band, and boom, out and money making.
Or he gets the whole thing with 6 people that write.
Right.
And they get in a room and they write for, X, Y, or Z person.
Well, then, you know how that writing thing is. I mean, it takes 12 people to write 6 lines nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, basically that. And you see, what's really an eye-opener, and I know you see this, that all the established older artists who want to try to get a youth injection, they go on there and they become a judge. Or they have Elton John Day on there, or they have Smokey Robinson Day, and they'll get Smokey or get Elton John on there because everybody's sort of trying to buy into this being relevant in today's world. And in today's world, it's like to be there in today's world. But 9 times out of 10 in today's world, there is no freaking there. There ain't no music. There's nothing. Who's playing what? Like you said, you don't know who's playing. I got 4 cats, man. I could take them down to my studio right now and have them sing, have them sound like that, and overdub some guitar. And I swear I'll get 2 million hits for Joe Louis Walker and the Blues Cat. You know?
Right.
My wife's cracking up. Because she's used to my big mouth.
Well, I can tell you what, we've done over 130 shows. You're my new favorite guest.
Thanks,
Mr. Walker, you can come on here anytime you want.
You know what? But I'm thinking this, and I love all of this, and I love the history, because that's where all the real shit came from. It's, people that have a history. But I mean, the show's called Amps and Axes. I want to find out a little bit about what Joe Louis plays.
Yes,
what kind of guitars and amps, and how has that changed over time? Man, give us a little bit of that kind of history, man. What's your favorites?
Well, I gotta be honest. I'll just give you my spiel. Although I have guitars here, I gotta my sort of little holy grail here is the freaking I'll call that person back. My holy grail here now. I got a '69 Black Beauty Les Paul, which is a sweet guitar. Mm-hmm. But I play all kind of guitars. I play D'Angelico, which I got a great D'Angelico that I've been playing on this last tour of Europe. And, I have guitars, the Joe Louis Walker Hellfire guitar, made by Jimmy Cara, C-A-R-A, out of Delaware. And I've got Strat and Gibson 355, and I've got Quilter amps, which I like Quilter amps, and I have an amp made by a guy named Mark Walter. Paul Mark Walter. It's a boutique amp, really. I like little amps that you can crank them, and I've got another Joe Louis Walker model amp from Henry's, a red plate amp in Arizona, which is a great amp. It's made like a Dumble, beautiful, great sounding amp. So, but for me, my standard spiel is, I don't. To me, a guitar is a piece of wood with some strings tied to it. The guitar doesn't make anything by itself. It only can come out of it what's in your heart and your soul and your fingers, and that's the long and short about it. I'll tell you a funny story. I used to live above the Iridium where Les Paul used to play every week, and Les Paul would have guests. So he had, I think, Chet Atkins one time, and I didn't go down. And so it had to be 900 guitar players there, salivating. And so, they at the end of the night, all the guitar players go to Les, and Les is holding court as Les would do, and then the other half would go over there with Chet Atkins, who wasn't as, it's outgoing as Les. And so their guys are saying, Chet, it's a great guitar, and man, what does this knob do? And when it turns that way, and when you get up on the high strings, it does this, it does that, and Chet just not suffering fools lightly. He just had all these guitar players. He says, okay, told them all, said, come here for a minute, everybody. They all walked over there. He put the guitar on the stand. He says, how does it sound now? That's the way I feel about a guitar. How does it sound now?
Yeah.
Nothing comes out of it without you putting something into it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, like we always said, no matter who you take, you could take Jeff Beck, give him a Squire, and it would sound like Jeff Beck.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because that guitar just doesn't do anything until Jeff Beck touches it.
I forgot whether it was Wired or Blow by Blow. The story told that he went into the record, and I guess maybe he didn't have an amp, or they didn't know what they were going to use. They pulled out an old solid state Vox amp out of the closet or amp cupboard or whatever, and it's like, all right, record the album with this. Just bang, go.
Wow.
It doesn't matter, as much as people think it does. They're tools. Yeah. They're tools, and maybe this tool sounds a little different, or this tool feels a little different. This tool does this thing a little bit differently, or that a little bit differently. But if you're an accomplished player, you can get the job done with almost whatever tool is at hand. As I'm sure
and
Mr.
also,
Walker
it's like colors. Each guitar player, it's like painting on a canvas. You get different colors, and I'd hate to buy a painting all the same color. So if you use a Strat, you're going to get a different color sound then you're going to get from a Flying V. if you use the ES335, you're going to get a totally different sound than an SG. And then if you put them all in one person's hand, like B.B. King, they're all going to sound like Lucille. They're all going to sound like B.B. King playing Lucille. And he's had every one of them. He had an Esquire, Stratocaster, you fucking name it, he had it.
Yeah.
You know, until he invented that Lucille. It's a 335 with no F-holes, so he didn't have to worry about the feedback. You know, but yeah, I agree with you. You know, I mean, you can put Jeff Beck. Yeah, I mean, you can give him a freaking ukulele. He's going to sound like Jeff Beck. You know.
Yeah, it might be different colors or different textures, but the artist is going to shine through.
Well,
you hear
out.
3 notes, and you go, I know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't sound like a traditional sound that this gentleman or woman typically sounds like, but I know who that is.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, you know, I'll tell you something funny. Me and my wife, we had seen a good friend of mine. He's also a band leader on TV. I won't name him. And he's got this great Beatles sort of tribute group. I won't even call. They do. I mean, literally do a whole Beatles album. Shit, the Beatles
I
never
know
did
him.
live.
I know him, and I know them.
And so we went down to see him at the City Winery here. And so we're sitting there, and so they're playing guitars, and they're doing all the Beatles stuff, man. It's great. I love it. I'm a big Beatles fan. And you know they play the 12 strings for Here Comes the Sun, and the Rickenbacker for Ticket to Ride, this and that, and this guitar and that guitar and that guitar, and so at the end of the night, my wife turns to me and she says, "Joe, the Beatles only had like 4 guitars." They must have had 100 guitars on stage. The Beatles they were so proud when Epiphone gave them those little cheap-ass Epiphones.
Oh, yeah.
Man, somebody tell me if they had seen Paul McCartney play a other bass than that damn screwed-up Hofner on stage. I've never seen him play anything other than that bass on stage.
They had a couple of casinos.
He recorded with the Rickenbacker and a P-bass.
Right,
but I mean,
and a P-bass.
They didn't have all that shit, man.
No, they had a couple of Epiphone casinos.
Yeah.
A Gibson J200. No, or was it? Wasn't a J200?
No.
What was the Gibson?
The J140.
Yeah. With the pickup in it.
Yeah.
That's John Lennon's guitar.
Right. The Hofner. You know, a couple of Rickenbackers. That's about it.
Slingerland drum set and go.
But in actuality, though, back in the day, they didn't have that. They didn't even give them those little cheap casinos until they were already super famous. So if they had Lennon had that little 3/4 of a Rickenbacker,
right.
You know, he had that 3, which was not a 12-string. George had 2 guitars. He had like a country gentleman,
right, he had the Gretsch.
I think, and a Ricky, and Paul had that freaking bass. That was it.
Hofner, right?
You know?
That's it.
Yeah,
that was what the early stuff was done with.
Yeah, know? I know the band he's talking about. I know you know the band too.
I know the band. I know. Yeah.
And it's funny because you know they're trying to do it exactly the way it was mapped out on the album,
right?
And you know, there's a ton of stuff, but like you said, it's like what's going on here?
That's too funny. Speaking of players and everything, you did some touring with, or more, a friend of mine did some touring with you for a while. Good friend of mine, Linwood Taylor. Yeah,
Linwood was with me for a few years. I've known Linwood, since the first time I played Twist and Shout in D.C., about 89, 88. I've known Linwood a long time. Yeah. It's just funny because I just seen him performing somewhere the other day, and I picked up YouTube. It sounded great.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
We have an episode where we interviewed Linwood.
Yeah, I've known him for quite a few years, man.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah, good people.
What was I going to ask you? Oh, any touring now, or new releases, or what do you want our listeners to know and to pick up on?
Well, we just came back from Europe. We did England and France and Switzerland. And go back to Switzerland for one show in about a couple of weeks, and then hit the West Coast and different places, and down Florida and what have you. And just working on that, and we'll probably be working on another record before this year goes out.
That is so cool.
Nice. Same band? Have you had the same band for a while?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Well, like we always do with every guest, we'll have your website.
Put the link up.
It'll be on the show, and when the show goes into the archive, it'll live there in
perpetuity.
And we'll make sure that if anything comes down and, you know, your guy gets a hold of us and tells us about it, we'll make sure that we let all the listeners know.
Yeah.
Because
any East Coast touring at any time? Because that's where we are, and we'd always love to come to see you.
Yeah, you have to check. I'm playing Plattsburgh Festival up by Syracuse.
Okay.
I know that, and I'll probably be doing some more things at BB King's, and different stuff like that.
Manhattan, BB's?
You'd have to just check on my website because I don't keep track of all the dates,
You just go where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm there to help try to arrange it, but once you're doing it, you just you got a million other things on your mind.
Oh, for sure. Well, all our listeners will check out the website, and
we'll make sure we have it up.
Look for the new release when it comes out soon, and thanks for taking the time, and much continued success. I know you've been doing it quite a long time, and we all hope you get to do it for quite a long time continuing. So,
well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoy talking.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, likewise, man. We'll do it again sometime. If you got a new release, let your management know. And
I think we have to have them on every year.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah.
No matter what.
For sure.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Walker, thank you again. We really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of the evening, and continued health and success. And there you have the story.
Yeah, man. I know, like, it sounded like we were in the gripe session or whatever, but the thing is, he was there.
Right.
He has seen look, it's 62, in 62, doing that, he got to see all the beginning stuff, where the
it was happening.
Where the electric guitar really went to this next level.
Right.
Because, see, the Les Pauls and all those guys, they were jazz boxes, and
even like we at the beginning of the show, Scotty Moore.
Yes.
All those
I'm not going to dismiss that.
No,
that was all part of that foundation that built everything.
Absolutely.
But when it started getting to those late 60s, that's when the electric guitar became kind of like the forefront.
Right.
Because a lot of guitar players in those big bands, they were pushed back.
Yeah, they were just comping jazz chords in the background and maybe giving a solo a night,
very
8
little,
bars, 16 bars, whatever,
exactly.
and that go,
Yeah, they didn't even, I remember I read that Gibson didn't even put the number 10 on their amplifiers because they didn't want anybody from the band to see that the thing went to this 10. They only went to 9. They went from 0 to 9. And they did that for a reason because these guys were literally shunned out, Guitar players were kind of like, no, we have horn players.
Right.
You're just making chords.
And it's really funny, because what a rebel Leo was. His tweeds went to 12.
Yeah, exactly. But, he was there. And to hear that and his analogies of it was awesome because he's not lying.
No. I mean, this is life as lived according to Joe Louis Walker. And, he has his own opinions, which have been formulated over a lifetime. And, he saw the real stuff. He saw the imitated stuff. Mm-hmm. And now, half of it's fake stuff.
Yeah, and everything we always say, not moving real air and 85,000 notes to be done in 4 bars doesn't make it as
right.
And how do I say this? There is you got to have the heartbeat. The heartbeat stuff, guys, will go in perpetuity.
Absolutely.
As opposed to if you let the machine take over, don't expect to be around much longer.
Yeah, it just gets boring and contrived after a while.
Well, the brain just can't process it.
I hope people nowadays, if they get a little bit more and more and more into real music and a little bit more of music history and things like that, I hope, after they do that, 5-10 years from now, they go back and listen to the stuff that's out now, and I hope half the people go, what was I
What
thinking?
The hell was it? It was sort of like
happening?
bell bottoms. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's having sex at a time when the clothes were so horrible, it was almost guaranteed nobody was going to have sex. So, So if
they weren't horrible back then.
But if you take them,
stylish.
Yeah, but if you, good luck with that. But you take the music that you're listening to now, you get 10 years of your life and a house load of bills. You've gone through your first divorce. You got kids that won't listen to you. You'll go back and go, what the hell was I thinking?
Now, you know what you'll do then? You'll pick up the guitar and start playing the damn blues.
Exactly.
That's what you'll do.
That's right.
That's what you'll do.
So until next time, my friend.
When we all learn how to play the blues.
I'm Mick Marcelino, and you're...
I'm Jeff Bober, still.
And we're always saying...
Onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.
Hey, man, I guarantee you 60,000 fucking people don't like you.